Morning, everyone. My name is Khadija Abdullahi, and with me today, I'm the host from my news lounge, and with me today is my co-host.
Hi, everybody. Good morning and a warm welcome to all of you. I'm Dr. Mibina Salim, and we have an exciting topic to discuss today. And we'd like to introduce you to our guests who are.
So I'll start with Mr. David Fola Romi. I hope I'm not murdering the name. Fola Romi. I think I got it right.
Yes, you did. Excellent. You got it wrong.
So David Fola Romi is a Christian, a fervent lover and follower of Jesus Christ, a recipient of several awards, both home and abroad. David is a qualified economist, psychologist, a public speaker, a writer, and a certified counselor with specialty in addiction and substance use recovery. You can see why he's here today because our topic today is about substance abuse, its effects on families and the society. David Folaromi earned his economics degree in 2007 from Covenant University and a diploma in international management from the Institute of Business Technology in Brunel University, London, a trained United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, UNODC, a substance abuse educator, a seasoned public servant whose interest lies in counseling, psychology, mental health matters, understanding behavioral patterns, addictions, and rehabilitation with an aim to provide a better life for youth and young adults. So you can see that we have the right person on set today. Thank you so much, Mr. Polarami, joining us today on my news lounge.
Oh wow,
Thank
that
you
is
for having me.
your profession just speaks for itself. It's going to be quite exciting. So I'm going to introduce our next guest, which is Khadija Ahmed. She's an accountancy graduate of Kano State Polytechnic, who has worked in various finance roles in organizations such as Telestrategies Nigeria Limited, Flagship Healthcare, Country Mall Limited, and Abdullahi Makano and Company as an audit consultant. Throughout her career, she's always been passionate about helping people, especially women who are often overlooked and marginalized in society. She initiated agricultural programs that provided loans to women who wanted to start their own agribusinesses. Oh, wow. She's going to be our next guest when we also do the same. So, Hatija, nice to have you on board. And with the help of Abdullahi Makano Company, she established Pedro Africa Cooperative Microfinance Bank, which has already benefited more than 300 women in northern Nigeria, providing loans for their farms and trade, which improve their livelihoods and sustain their families. You so resonate with what we do. So, Katija, we're going to have a long relationship. And so will also
Mr.
Falade. Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us today. My news lounge is about my news lounge. My news lounge is about we are a platform that talks about underreported issues, social issues. We talk about things that a lot of people, families do not want to talk about. We care about the families because we believe that the family is the base of the society. And when we get it right at the family level, we'll be able to get it right in our society. The deplorable state of our value system is a concern to us at SI Magazine. And we started the platform to see how we can address these issues and talk about them. I feel that when we talk about them and solution around them, we'll be able to provide solutions for the society and for us all, so that we can all together hold hands and grow and develop our country, our African continent. Thank you guys for joining us. Sorry, I used the guys. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're very grateful.
And sorry, I just to buttress what Hadi just said now. With this my news lounge that we have introduced, we're looking at and it is her brainchild and her passion, motherhood to nationhood. So having this discussion for us is about us talking about including the whole motherhood to nationhood aspect of it. because we don't want to we want to tell stories. We want people to know what's going on. We want to give your life experiences. So just feel free to speak your mind about things and give us examples so people could now, resonate and feel what and be in touch with what you are saying. So I hope you're going to enjoy this. So we look forward to now engaging. So Haji, I think I'll hand over to you.
Yeah. So the first question we have is, I'll direct that to, they said ladies before gentlemen, right? So I'll direct it to my namesake, Khadija. Hadiza, yes. The Hausa people say Hadiza, but she's the same name with me, Khadija. How does this affect a family, especially when a family member begins to abuse drugs? How does substance, we're talking about substance abuse right now, and we want to know how this affects a family. We want you to tell us a story, maybe you've encountered something like that, and then as we go, like Dr. Maimuna Salim said, we need to add stories to it because it's a powerful tool for people to understand the depth of the issues. So what do you think? Well, I would like to hear from you. We would like to hear your insight on how substance abuse affects the family system. Thank you.
Wow. I think you got the right person because I'm somebody that's right now, personally, I'm dealing with two boys that are fighting addiction. My two sons.
Oh, so sorry. Wow.
Yes. The first one started when he was in secondary school. We didn't have a clue of it. And unfortunately, the second one started even after graduating from university. I just recently, about 6 months ago, we've been suspecting because of his attitude, but 6 months ago, he came out to tell me that he's into substance and he wants to stop. So thank God for him coming out to tell us. So it's not something that is easy. It really brings a strain in relationships within the family, within you and your friends. Yeah, because the strain in relationship, drug abuse can lead to strain in relationship within the family and the individuals struggling with addiction. Because to keep the lifestyle of drug addiction is very expensive. So they could result into stealing your things or stealing things that are for family, friends to the family. And this could be a source of your friends would not understand that, would not understand the gravity of what you are going through. They would blame it on you that you left your son to come and pick their things, and you'll be left to start paying things that you did not even. I don't know. I'm short of words because I've been through it personally. I have friends that my son would go to their house, maybe pick their expensive phones. Then instead of them to let's sit down as family, as friends, how do we help you out? No, all they want is their phone back. I'll be left with trying to struggle to get the money to pay the phone. My teens are not safe at home. I myself, that's for my first son. I really went through a lot, but Alhamdulillah, we keep thanking God for his mercies.
Oh,
wow.
Yeah.
And you're left isolated.
We so empathize with you.
You're left isolated, health-wise.
Yes.
Your BP is always high. Your sugar level is always high. You're always in and out of the hospital because you are the only one dealing with the mental stress of what the consequences of the drug addiction your children are facing. So it's not easy on any family. any family, financial, mentally. It's not easy on them.
So, subhanallah, I was
this is so touching.
It's like you just, I don't know how to explain it. I'm so sorry, Khadija. I am so sorry. I can never say I understand or know exactly what you're going through. I can never say that.
Never. Yeah.
I can never say that because this is deep, and this is and thank you so much for sharing your story, because it's not a you are very courageous, and you are a mother, because you're sharing your story to let other women understand the depth of what you're going through, and we are very grateful for you, for the journey, for you to get to this stage.
It's not anything any woman or any mother or any parents, both father and mother, would want to go through.
Absolutely. 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 Thank you for sharing your stories. We're going to come back to you again, and we're going to see how we can solve this thing, because I believe that community parenting is very important. And what your friends, I don't want to judge them. I don't know what they're going through in their own lives. But what we should have done as a community is for us to sit them down and see how we can rehabilitate them together, because it's very important when everybody's hands are on deck, and saying, okay, when you come to my house and this is the problem that my child is going through, we are going to, and you have someone to say, okay, we're in it together. We're in it together, and let's see how we can do it. It reduces the strain on you as a person. And we're going to go back to that. So I would allow you to ask.
Yes. So our next guest, Mr. David. So I want to just, after listening to Ms. Khadija, and ask you, and your experience, your expertise, because you've been dealing with this whole level of drug abuse, etc., and substance abuse. What level of influence do you think our children get from friends and their exposure to the internet and the dangers of abusing drugs?
Okay, thank you very much for the question. And shortly before I respond to that, please, with your kind permission, I'd like to say a big kudos to Madam Hadiza for coming out to speak about what she's going through. Yes. I struggled with an addiction for 7 years, and I can tell you that it almost killed my mother. So just seeing you speak about your 2 sons reminded me of the hell that I put my mother through. It was 7 years of hell. You can't understand until you're in that position that a child you brought up, you carried in your womb, you brought up, you did everything in your power to make sure that child turns out right, turns into a complete monster, someone you don't recognize anymore. You wouldn't understand it. So I want to say, I understand your feelings are valid, but then I want to say to you that there is hope. If I could come out of it, I was a chronic crack cocaine addict, walking the streets of Abuja, from Area 1 to Jabi, from Jabi to Gariki. Go to any of those police stations and call my name. They know me. I was that much of a problem in the city of Abuja. But today, I'm not just free from it. I'm helping others come out from it. So I'm speaking to you directly, Madam Hadiza. There is hope. Don't give up.
Thank you.
I was able to come out because my mom stood by me. I wish she was on this platform to share her story with you. She stood by me down to when I attempted suicide and nearly took my life. She didn't leave my side. And that was the turning point for me. So just keep standing by your 2 sons. They are not bad children. They are not bad children. They are just suffering from a mental health disease. It could have been cholera. It could have been malaria. It could have been typhoid, but it's addiction. It's a mental health disease. It's not a moral failure, and it's not the end of the world. You are going to come out of it. You are going to come out of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Miamuna, for giving us this platform to share our pains.
You're welcome. You are so welcome,
You're
madam.
so welcome.
And Mr. David, I mean, wow.
Wow.
You know, your story. I think you need to give us your story, and obviously based on the question that I just asked, and just give us a bit of your background and story how it started.
Yes.
Okay.
And so people need to hear and feel.
Yes.
Okay. So I was born in Kaduna State, you know, and my parents were very strict, tried to make sure that I did all that was right. My brothers and I'm the first of three children. And then we are Christians. And my parents' understanding of proper parenting at the time was to make sure we're always in church. We went to Christian primary schools, Christian secondary schools, and I went to a Christian university. Now, the irony is that it was on the grounds of this university that I had my first exposure to drug use. Wow. You know, so the same place that my mother put me in, thinking she was shielding me from social vices, was the same place I was exposed to substance use. So it was in my 200 level. A group of friends said, "Oh, David, let's go to." They were still building the university library then, which is a gigantic edifice. So they just said, "Let's go there to see what's happening." Sometimes people like to stand on the rooftop and look at the whole university campus. So we went there. And then we went to one of the offices still under construction, and I saw some of my mates smoking. Had never seen anything like that because I could see the immediate effect on them, on what they were doing. So I was shocked. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. But then I did not indulge at that time. I just went back to my hostel, started reminiscing of what I had seen. And now that's what happens. The seed has been planted, right? The seed has been planted. So it was now on my mind, you know. I kept on thinking about it. But then I finished from school on hot. I proceeded to the UK for my master's, Brunel University. And then I was with another set of friends that were always, and I think this answers your question about the level of influence that children get from friends and their exposure to the internet. So I was with another set of friends that were always doing substances, always doing drugs. A friend was doing a party in Spain, and he paid for me to go there along with some other friends. We went to Ibiza, and then I just started using. It got so bad that I had to come back to Nigeria. Then a friend again, it's always a friend. Then a friend again now introduced me to crack cocaine, which is one of the most psychologically dependent substances known to man. Highly elusive and very expensive. So much so that in 2011, between August and December, I spent over 3 million naira on that drug.
Oh,
and then we moved to the next year. I started selling my property. For those of us that know Abuja very well, Cited in Bora Estate. My mom had a house there. I made her to sell it, you know, in the guise that we're going to invest the money in something else. And I spent all that money doing drugs. Well, most of it until she found out I was using it on drugs and she was able to stop the rot. So this, I can't say all of my story because it's long, but then this lasted for 7 good years, up until the point that I started living in the bunks. So in Abuja, we have what we call the bunks. These are places that drugs are sold openly. It's almost like an open market. So you walk in there, once they identify that you're actually a drug user, they sell it to you. You pay either in cash or in kind. And then you stay there and openly use whatsoever drug you want to use. Crack cocaine, heroin, methamphetamine, anything, just name it. So I started living there because I couldn't go back home. I had now been estranged from my family and all of my good friends. I had lied to everybody I can think of about needing money for drugs. So I'll just tell them today, my mom has a kidney problem. I need 100,000. And because they knew the kind of family I came from, it will make it easy for them to send that money to me. You know, so this happened for 7 odd years. So many terrible things happened in the bunk. I saw a young lady who was 17 years old at the time who got pregnant because most ladies have to sleep around to be able to afford substances, especially the expensive ones like cocaine. So she was pregnant. She didn't know who the father was. She gave birth in the bunk and she sold the child. She sold the child when he was 2 weeks old. You know, that's an example of one of the deepest points of what addiction can make a person do. You know, so to round up this question, there's a very high level of influence that children get from friends. Now we run a recovery support program in Enugu State, like I said, and I also consult with a few rehabilitation centers. 99% of the people that come in for treatments was influenced by a friend. 99%. 99%. Hardly do you hear that I just went out of my way and I tried it on my own. No, there's always a friend that is introducing a girlfriend or a boyfriend or just a friend. And then exposure to the internet. The internet glorifies drug use. I tell people something. I was speaking in a seminar just last week, and I was telling the participants, I said, look, we still have a problem, a long way to go in Nigeria. We still have alcohol adverts. That doesn't make any sense. So you're advertising alcohol, and the person is wearing nice shoes, nice clothes, bling bling, a Rolex watch, and holding an iPhone 15. And then a young boy who is sitting watching that commercial thinks, okay, if I drink alcohol, then I'll be like this. But that's a lie. That's a lie, because most of those things are costumes for that commercial. They're taken back from these people. But they don't tell our young people this. Our young people just consume this very illicit content and then start thinking about how to get into using drugs. So that's very terrible. So there's a high level of influence from the internet, especially because of how substances are glorified, and from children. I'll tell you one more story, because I like to buttress my points with stories. Also, I'm from children. Now, like I said again, I'm a Christian. So I get invited to a lot of churches or church programs to talk about drug use to young people. 3 years ago, I was invited to Winners Chapel in Canaan Land. That's one of the biggest churches around in the country, for a youth program that should have lasted for 3 days. After my opening paper on the first day, a young girl of 16 came out to me in tears. And I said, what was the problem? She put her hand in her bag and she brings out 5 grams of cocaine. 5. I took my pinky finger, I dug into one of it, put it on my tongue, because I still didn't want to believe it was cocaine. And it was very pure cocaine. And I was shocked, to say the least. And I asked her, so what did you bring this for? And she said she was coming for the youth program, and then her friend gave it to her because she uses with her friends. And then she told her that when you get there, anybody that is interested, share it with them. So you can imagine that level of influence. Somebody might be coming for a program where he or she is supposed to get better, learn life skills or social skills, and learn the Bible. Yet we still have a 16-year-old girl there who is willing to influence them negatively with substances. So for me, it's the highest level. Influence from friends is the highest level we see that causes people to go into substances. Thank you very much.
So thank you, Mr. David. I mean, wow, I don't know what's the right word to use, but I'm flabbergasted, because I mean, the story actually so, resonates about the issue on peer pressure, about peer pressure. We take it for granted what peer pressure can do. I mean, you're in university and a bunch of friends get there and saying that just watching them, it's now start working on your mind, playing on your mind, and you start thinking about it. And this is what we take for granted, is that these are the things that actually propels our kids to go into the wrong direction. And there's so many things happening today, and you sharing the story just makes us more aware. Because we tend to blame the family or the parents.
Yes. And right? And nobody blames any other person. It's always and the people they blame. The father blames the mother and say those are your children.
Yes.
That's when they know that this is your child. I mean, look at Mr. Falaromi that said that his mother did not give up on him.
Yes.
And this is why we have this motherhood connection with him, because we know that the crux of the society, of the family, is always the core engine room for family building is the mother.
Yes.
And then the mother is the one that never gives up. She never gives up, no matter what. So it's really thank you so much for sharing these stories. And I just have a question, and I don't know if I'm supposed to direct it to you or to Mr. Falaroni or to Khadija. I don't know. How do we now then begin to shield our children from friends? Because there's no theory, there's no practicality in saying that you're going to shield your children. What are the shielding ingredients that we need to nurture our children from childhood, from the cradle, to see how we prevent them to be able to stand by themselves? I mean, from my own perspective, the little understanding I got from Mr. Falaromi's story is that the first time he saw some people taking the drugs, he was awed, and it sowed a seed. Should that then be that? Should we now then start exposing our children to these things at the when they are children at the cradle level, for them to really understand the destructive
issues? You saying that, you know what I think is that we as parents, some of us, we avoid this subject, the reality of the subject. We do not speak about it in the home.
Or we don't even expose the children to letting them know that these things. So I want to ask this question again. What are the things that we must do as parents? Because this podcast is something that one of the objectives is to make the upcoming mothers to make them aware of these issues, to make them aware of these issues. Where we got it wrong, they can be able to do it right. Because the most important thing is for us to know that we're raising the next generation of leaders like your children, like Folaromi, that will sit on the decision-making tables of our lives.
Yes.
And then by then we can sit back and say that, okay, we're all right. So what do we begin to do? What are the solutions to these things? Because from what Mr. Folaromi said, the first thing, he had never seen anybody smoke before. He was shielded from it all his life because he went to a Christian. What do we need to do as parents? So I don't know who anyone can answer it. Or maybe
the first thing is to hello?
Yes,
can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Educate about the risk. Provide information about the risk of drug abuse, alcohol use, or any other substances. Help them understand the potential consequences and impact on their health. So that's what we as parents fail to do. Because you think your child looks innocent.
You cannot do that. Yes.
You believe in your standard of their upbringing. So you feel your child cannot even go there. Then their friends, like he said, peer group. This started when they were in secondary school. And their friends were all family friends. Those his friends looks innocent, not knowing they have a clique within themselves. And they all decide to go to one person's house where the parents don't stay at home, parents that go out to work. They use the house during holiday to do their drug, whatever they take. Then when he comes back home, he goes in direct into his room. I just feel, okay, going into his room, he just wants to be by himself, not knowing that withdrawal syndrome that he had, not mingling with us, is for us not to know what he's into. So as parents, you should make sure you monitor your child. Go into their room. There's nothing like privacy.
Yes.
That was the mistake I did.
Wow. Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing that. You just identified two things. Immediately, I'd like to highlight those things that you make them understand from the cradle the destructive tendencies of drug abuse and all of that, and then that's educate them properly. And then you said that you should monitor them, be on their neck. Like my children feel that I don't give them privacy, but I don't believe that we all have the solution to it. We have like a master solution to this thing. If it didn't happen to you, it's because probably God helped you. That's because that's the stage that we are in Nigeria. We're having that conversation with my son. One of them, he was telling me why that time that I was very panicky about this thing. He said that, Mommy, why are you panicking? that at this stage in now is the people who are not taking the drugs are the ones that are being counted, not the ones taking the drugs. And that further blew my mind. And I feel that prayer should be one of the solutions.
Yeah.
Taking action, monitoring them, exposing them to content that will make them realize the destructive tendencies of drugs. And also, I think prayers too should be one of our strategies. Mr. Falarami, can we hear from you what you think we can do just to add to what Mrs. Khadija said to us?
Okay, thank you very much. I think you both have said very correct words. I'll start with what Madam Khadija said. Yes, we need to expose children, the young ones, to the dangers of using substances. I'll just like to add a little something to this. We need to make sure that whatever we're doing is age appropriate based on their developmental level. So we have age appropriate drug abuse conversations for children. So when we start from drug abuse conversations from the age of 3 to 5, we are not necessarily telling them the names of these substances. I have a 3-year-old daughter. I'm not going to tell her cocaine is bad for her. No. But from 3-year-old, I would encourage her to say no to something being done to her that she doesn't like. I've started the drug abuse conversation. So what we are supposed to do is to build resilience in our children. You know, you don't start by, because sometimes you want to make sure that you don't tweak their curiosity, and then you are now the cause of the problem. You know, so they're setting, just like I think one of the hosts was saying, this is a conversation we shy away from, especially in this part of the world. It's just like the sex conversation. Some people who have become so holy and religious and righteous that we don't want to have these very important conversations with the children. And what I tell parents is, if you fail to have these conversations with your children and the right way, people will tell them lies about it outside.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was in a conference last week, and we had international delegates from all over the world. And after they had all spoken about the causes of drug abuse, including risk factors, predisposing factors, and all of that, I was going to present a paper. And I'm a big believer, a big fan of family-based prevention approach, because I believe that it starts from the family. And then as parents, we are the custodians of the family. So the onus is on us to prevent drug abuse in the society. And once we get it right in the family unit, then we've gotten it right. Now, you were saying something. Are we going to keep shielding our children? No. Children, God in his infinite mercy created us as social beings. So like I tell parents in parenting conferences, I say, except you want to raise your child in your bedroom, from day one till the day he dies, you'll be looking at him. Once he's able to step out the door, there are external influences that come from his peers, influences that come from his teachers, influences that come from your community where you live. Once he steps out from your sight, he begins to experience some of these influences while he's trying to socialize. So what do you do? Because obviously, because you cannot keep him in your bedroom, you need to create in him resilience to be able to say no to these things. You need to be able to develop social and life skills in your children. Some of these life skills include assertiveness. Teach your children to be assertive. Teach your children communication skills. Somebody is going to offer your child drug. He might want to say no, or he doesn't know how to say no boldly, because as parents, we have not taught him how to say no boldly. Parents, teach your children problem-solving skills. Some of us solve every single problem we want to solve for their children. Now you ask me, how do you relate this to drug abuse prevention? I'll tell you. I had a case of a young girl who wanted to study medicine, and she did not like biology. And in her SS2, somebody said she should smoke Canadian loud. That's a variant of weed, marijuana. It still has the same component of tetrahydrocannabinol, but then it's a very tough variant and very difficult to treat. And then she was brought to me, and she said, the person said, if she smokes that Canadian loud, she'll be able to comprehend what she's being taught in biology. Now, the problem here is biology. She cannot comprehend it. And somebody's teaching, telling her, take loud to make you comprehend. She cannot solve that problem because she was not taught problem-solving skills. There's a 6-point model to teach your children problem-solving skills. As parents, we can't solve everything for them. We have parents who write WAEC for their children. There will come a time where you will not be there to solve a problem for them. And somebody will lie to them that if he takes weed or she takes weed, they'll be able to solve that problem. So please, that's also very important. So some of these life skills, we have about 10 to 15 of them we need to teach our children. Then please be present for your children. Please be present. Be there for them to talk to. Some of us have become too busy chasing money to take care of children, yet those children's lives are being destroyed. Yeah, those lives are being destroyed. Last year in June, I went to a school in Lagos to speak on drug abuse prevention. And when I finished speaking, a young girl came up to me. When I looked at her, I assumed she was about 13 years old. And she started crying. So I just took her to a corner and we sat down, still in the hall. And she said, "Sir, everything you said has just made me shiver. I can't concentrate in school again. I can't do this again. I said, "What happened?" She said, 2 years ago, I started taking Hennessy. And then I started smoking marijuana. And then now I'm taking cocaine. And I cannot study anymore without using cocaine." This is a 13-year-old girl. And the first question I asked is, "Where's your father?" Her father is a politician in Abuja. "Where's your mother?" Her mother was in Dubai. She's an international businesswoman. "So who were you left with to take care of you?" She said her uncle.
Wow.
So parents, when you're not present for your children, these things begin to happen and you cannot nip it in the bud. That's another issue. You cannot nip it in the bud. And finally, because there are so many ways we can talk about family-based prevention, as parents, we need to understand the telltale signs of drug use. We need to, because statistics show, and this happened to me, so I can tell that it's true, that before you find out your child is using substances, he or she might have been using it for up to 2 years under your nose, and you wouldn't know, simply because you don't understand these telltale signs. They start failing in school, their grades drop, you don't pay much attention to it. Their appearance, the way they used to look before, it drops. You don't pay much attention to it. They have droopy eyelids. Their eyes that used to be very okay before now becomes droopy. You don't pay attention to it. Slurred speech, you don't pay attention to it. Then we now have children that wear clothing that covers all their arms, their legs. They still wear socks inside their house. They are covering something from you. Can't you see it? Yes. They are covering something from you. You know, so we have so many telltale signs. They become secretive. You know, they want to stay alone. There's a change in appetite. Either they start eating too much because they might have started using substances like marijuana that increases appetite, or they reduce in their eating because they started using stimulants that makes them to lose appetite. These are some of the things we need to know as parents. And please, it's not enough to send your children to schools that are paying in millions. At least just this week, let me buttress a bit. Just this week, we saw a child bullying another child, slapping another child. And when I was writing about it, I said, I pray we don't spend millions of naira to take our children to a school where they'll be slapped. That was just humorous. But then I need to talk to parents. It's not about taking your children to school, they pay millions of naira. Those teachers you're sending them to, they have their own problems. They will not take up your own problem and leave their own alone. No, they will not do that. So we have the statutory responsibility of preventing drug use, and it starts from the home. We need to understand these things. We need to understand risk factors, predisposing factors. These are factors that surround the child, that predisposes him or her to drug use outside any control of the child. So it's not his fault. Do you know that you can struggle with drug use as a result of genetics? Yes, it could be genetic. So how is that the fault of the child? So as a parent who is intentional, who is conscious, who is purposeful, you should understand that if this thing is in my genes, my grandfather was an alcoholic, my father is an alcoholic. When I was in school, I used to drink. You should pay attention to that child. When you have a child and you see that the child is very active, the child likes high risky situations, you take the child to a merry-go-round, she's very happy when it's on the top. Pay attention to that child because that child is predisposed to risky behavior. That child is predisposed to risky behavior. So as a parent, what do? Channel that energy to something positive. Go and put that child into where he or she will dispose of that energy in a positive way. As parents, we have a lot of work and we are failing in that regard. But may God help us all. Thank you very much.
Wow. Thank you so much, Mr. David.
Much, Mr. Falaromi. Thank you so much.
Is so insightful. And I love the fact that you spoke about, your 3-year-old and how we should handle it in the home. And looking at the age appropriation, looking at how you strengthen the mind, looking at the basic thing that we take for granted, the life skills. the soft skills of our children, teaching them assertiveness, teaching them resilience, teaching them how to say no, communication. And it starts with us as parents. And we're failing to do this because we are too busy.
Yes.
We are too busy running after chasing money. And we don't see those telltale signs.
Yeah.
I mean, the mindfulness, we do a lot of mindfulness trainings, and that is imperative. And we want to leave all that to the teachers because they go to school. And forget that this is our responsibility. Speaking on that element, I just want us to focus on, look at the next one on, you've been there. You've gone through this situation and getting out of it. I want you to speak about that journey, the rehabilitation. Because does Nigeria have enough rehabilitation centers? Do we have enough professionals to take care of the victims or the people who have been affected by this? And how did you come out of this? What helped you? What mechanisms did you use to get out of this and to remain clean for all this time?
Okay, thank you very much. To answer your first question, I'll say no, we do not have enough rehabilitation centers in the country to manage the rising number of youth who are struggling with drug use. Now, I'll give you a statistics. In Nigeria currently, the only authentic statistics we have on drug use is the United Nations Office on Drug and Crime drug survey that was carried out in 2018. Now, I'll tell you something. At that time, it was said that we have about 360,000 problematic drug users. When you say problematic drug users, these are people who will go out to sell their things, people who will live in the bunks, etc., etc. However, we had about 15 million people who had used substances in the last year before that survey was carried out. Wow. Now, let me shock you. At that time, we had only 120 bed spaces in terms of rehabilitation. Wow. Because it increased over the years to about 1,000. But even at 1,000, compared to 360,000 beds, 360,000 problematic users, that should answer your question. We do not have enough rehabilitation centers that will do the job. And even those that we have, what are they doing? That's the question. What are they doing? Before I set up to start this recovery support group and brief, I went around Nigeria to 29 rehabilitation centers, asking questions from their medical directors, asking questions from their hospital administrators. Why is it that we are failing in Nigeria? Most of the centers, the so-called centers we have, do not even meet up with world standards. So there was a place I went to in Kaduna where they just keep people there and they beat them morning, afternoon, and evening. That's not rehabilitation. That's not rehabilitation. And then also taking people to religious centers. Now, please, I'm going to get to this. I'm saying this with all sense of respect. Taking people to religious centers to get them rehabilitated does not work. It is counterproductive. It is not evidence-based. That's not evidence-based treatment. That's another issue. And then there's a bi-directional relationship between mental health and addiction. So sometimes addiction causes mental health. Sometimes a mental health illness can cause an addiction. Now, who are the most certified professionals to handle mental health cases? Psychiatrists.
Yes.
How many psychiatrists are in Nigeria? Qualified psychiatrists? Less than 500. Less than 500. So we're talking about one psychiatrist treating almost 800 persons struggling with mental health illnesses. It can't work. It can't work. And then the private organizations that have rehab centers that sort of know what they are doing, because when I say sort of, because I look at the success rate, it's still very low. It's still very low. So those that sort of know what they are doing are so expensive. There are rehabs in Abuja where they charge 1.4 million a month. They are so expensive. Somebody went to that rehab, I won't call any name, and then the person came out and she relapsed 2 weeks after coming out. Your parents spent about 5 million naira in 3 months for rehab. 2 weeks later, you are back in area 1 in the box.
Wow.
I mean, so we need to, and I thank God for this podcast and this news. And maybe I think you need to take it up a notch. We need to get all hands on deck to find out why exactly is treatment not working in this country. What are we doing wrong? Have these treatment centers become business centers just to collect money from desperate parents? Something needs to be done, because all we see is people going from rehab to rehab to rehab to rehab, paying hundreds of thousands and running into millions and not getting results. And nobody's saying anything about it. It hurts me. because it's a lot of money, and not just the money, it's people's lives we're talking about. There's no body, there's no government organization performing oversight functions on so-called rehabilitation centers in Nigeria. Any Tom, Dick, and Harry can open a house, call it whatever he wants, and say he has opened a rehab. And then because you know that you are prying on the desperation of parents, you tell them that you can help their children, bring this money. You, in your heart of hearts that God created, you know that you cannot solve the problem. And then they go out. So something needs to be done about rehabilitation in Nigeria. One, we don't have enough. Two, among the ones we have very substandard rehabilitation centers. And three, we don't even have enough professionals to cater for the number of drug use victims. And finally, you asked a very good question, which I wanted to talk about in follow-up in the last question I answered. You talked about the place of prayer. And I like that very much. We cannot overemphasize the place of prayer. At the end of the day, you cannot overemphasize the place of prayer. I was talking about the suicide attempt and how in the middle of it, after 3 days, I woke up and I saw my mom by my bedside. You know, imagine 7 years of using substances, selling all of her property, you know, doing all the unthinkable stuff. But I saw her lying down by my bedside, crying and praying to God and asking God to heal her son. You know, that touched me. I know for the first time in 7 years, I actually said a prayer within me and I said, God help me. And that was the beginning of the journey that I'm now on in recovery and helping others. Thank you very much.
Oh, wow. That is
Congratulations. Congratulations. God bless and continue to help you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Falarami, for what you're doing for humanity. Because right now, and I don't know, but I feel that somehow God put you in that situation because of the work you're going to do. I don't know, but that's I feel that. I feel that sometimes we are being tested in various ways, and this is what part of my faith is. You're being put in that critical position for 7 years to go through, live it and everything. And just because your life is supposed to contribute to the growth and development and the rehabilitation of 8,000 or millions. Because what you're doing, what you said today, imagine how many people would listen to this and would be able to derive a lot of solution, will be able to derive, will be able to find closure from what you have said. I'm sure Ajia Khadija too gained a lot from what you said today. Thank you so much for sharing. I'd like Ajia Khadija to say something because our time is up.
All he was saying was like, he's talking to me. That's all I can say.
Yes.
All he said, he hit the nail where it's supposed to be, because I lost my husband when the children were small, so I had to work to keep the family running.
Yes.
I go to work 9 o'clock in the morning, come back home. Maybe I only barely have 1 hour for break to pick my children from school and just drop them at home with the house help. So I feel guilty at times, but thank God we've been through it and we are still on the process. I just pray God makes it possible for them.
Yes. And you know, Haja Fatija, I just want to say to you that, you know, as a parent, you know, you are strong enough to hold on to them because you birthed them, and you're going to hold on to them and make sure that they get out of this, because you know, at the end of the day, they are your pride and joy. Yes. And this is where, as parents, we cannot give up. And Mr. David says that his mom, he found his mom praying, and that's the time he said, "Okay, God, I need your help." And this is where a mom plays such an important role in our lives, whether we like to admit it or not. And just don't give up. And you have the support of people around you, I'm sure, and family and friends and the community. And just, I'm so happy that you're not afraid to open up, because a lot of us hide behind the shame. Absolutely. There's no shame anymore. It's pain. And there's no pain, you know, and there's so much of pain that you have no gain. So let us now share our stories and tell people, so people will know from our experiences how they can help and assist their children. And I love the one about, you know, again, we speak about peer pressure. We need to understand that peer pressure is there.
It's there. It's real.
It's real.
And we can't run away from it.
Run away from it.
But if we do a community parenting together, and this is what I tell a lot of people, nobody can, it takes a village to raise.
That's why you say nationhood.
That's why I said motherhood to nationhood.
Yes.
We can't do it all by ourselves. We need each other to do this. We need each other to parent each other's child. I know that in the past that when a child is smoking outside and another parent sees the child, they would scold. The child would not even smoke in front of another parent.
Correct.
But these days we have come to a position, we have come to a society now that everybody is saying, mind my business. You can't mind your business when you know that your child is going to associate with another child. Every child should be your child.
Correct.
Every child should be your child. And just to add to the things that Mr. Falaromi said, for me, what has worked for me, I'd like to share that if it's going to help anybody, or I don't know if what has worked for me, and I'm grateful to God, because there are things that it happens to you and you'd like to share how it happened. So we had this discussion with a couple of friends. We sat down in a group and we were talking about the art, the art of fasting for children. So a lot of women feel that, we cannot, the child is too young. The child, you don't allow the children to fast at the age that they demand. You didn't ask them. They demanded to fast 3-4 years. When Mr. Falaromi was talking about resilience, building resilience for me, what has worked for me is when the children grow up, you encourage them to fast at a very young age. Abstinence from food, making them know that, okay, you're not going to eat from this side to this side. That's from a morning till night. It builds a powerful resilience in a child. Absolutely. The child has the power to say no at school, wherever. I remember we were having this problem, and with my husband, because our upbringing with my husband is completely different. In his family, they don't believe in this fasting or something. In my family, we will. So when we're fasting during a Ramadan time, my 4-year-old child, the first one, was saying that he wanted to fast because I have a rule. If you're not going to eat all the food that the fasting person will eat. So if you're not fasting, you eat the regular food. If you're fasting, you eat every dish, the feast that we have. So he was having that issue with me that he would not allow his children to fast. You know what he did? He would go behind my back and say, eat, take this, eat. And the boy would say, no, Daddy, I'm not going to eat. Yes. I want to fast. At the wee age of 6 or 7. And this is what I tell some mothers, teach them to fast. It builds something powerful in them. When they go, you encourage, don't force them, encourage them to fast. And I feel that has basically worked for a lot of us in that community. We talked about it and we say that we should encourage mothers to teach their children, to encourage their children to fast at a very early age. That will build the resilience that Mr. Falaromi is talking about. And having this family morning tete-a-tete, like after Subi prayers or after the morning prayers for the Christians that they do, have this sit out with the children and share and learn together. I think these are the things that have worked for me, and I hope that it will work for the upcoming mothers and more mothers that are willing to plan for their children. So thank you so much.
So I'd like to know any closing remarks from you, Mr. David, before we close off.
Okay, thank you very much. I had a great time here. I would like to first of all talk about drug abuse prevention, and I would like to reiterate that I believe it starts from the family. Parents, especially mothers, you're the first point of call. We need to get knowledge You know, people die for lack of knowledge. We need to get knowledge on issues bordering on drug abuse and its prevention. Understand the developmental stages of your children and speak to them of age-based, age-appropriate drug abuse prevention discussions. And then in treatment, I want to tell anybody who might later on watch this to know that there's hope for you. It's not a death sentence. I came out of it. It's been 7 going to 8 years now. I've not tasted a drop of alcohol, cigarettes, or any drugs. I've also seen people who have come out of it and are thriving and are doing very well in their various fields of life. So it's not a death sentence. It's not a death sentence. You can come out of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Madam Khadija?
She's trying to log on.
Okay. So I think we've come to the end of our session. This was a very, very informative session.
I have one more thing to say.
Okay.
So Mr. Falaromi said some things, and one of the things that triggered when he was talking, that triggered my head was, I can't remember the name of the movie. There was this movie that was done in the 80s, and we watched it together with the entire family, about a boy that was abusing drugs. And the depravity, the way the child became, the way they captured, it was a Nollywood movie. I must look for the name of that movie.
Yes.
I think it scarred some of my children, because they were very little then. I think that more families should watch those kinds of movies. Those and more, the Nollywood people should also make movies like that. Age appropriation is also important for children to see how destructive substance abuse is. And that way it can goes on to their subconscious.
Yes.
And maybe that can also help.
Okay.
Yeah, I just thought that.
And that's brilliant. And I think also it comes with lessons, not just watching the movie, speaking, talking about it, understanding it, and educating ourselves. So we've come to the end of this beautiful, fantastic session. Thank you so much, Mr. David. This was phenomenal. Thank you for sharing your experiences. Thank you for being vulnerable enough to open to us.
Thank you for having me.
Khadija also, I mean, this was, heartwarming, heart-wrenching. It was everything, The emotions today, I think if we have to watch this again, we're going to well, I'll have more tears in my eyes. So we've come to the end of the session. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you everyone for being a part of this today's episode. And I pray that we have a lot of nuggets, a lot of lessons to go with it. It's very, very important that we hold each other's hands to be able to raise our children right, so that our children will be contributors to society. That is the main reason one of the main reasons why we're doing it. We've heard the stories from Madam Aja Khadija and from Mr. Falaromi, phenomenal stories. And I pray that somebody watching out there has learned a lot from this podcast. And thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Sorry, before we end, Mr. David, your details. If people have to ask for your details, we would share it with the audience if you would allow us to. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.